Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, why does it feel like no matter what I do, things keep falling apart? My guest today, Alla Esther Levy, knows that feeling intimately. After being diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder more than 20 years ago, facing the possibility of having her spleen removed and being pumped full of drugs and offered no real hope, she also endured two failed marriages, a rocky career, and an overwhelming dissatisfaction with life. But out of that pain came a powerful awakening. Today, we'll explore Alla's journey of turning breakdowns into breakthroughs and how struggle can become the doorway of transformation and truth. Now, before we dive in, if you're here because you are seeking truth, healing, and transformation, make sure to subscribe and share this episode with someone who's ready for their own awakening. Every conversation here is meant to inspire your journey and remind you you're not alone. Welcome, Alla.
Hello.
Hi. I'm
How you
so
doing?
excited you decided to join me on this journey. We've kind of known each other for a good long time at this point, huh?
Yes, we have.
Yeah. It's probably been, I don't know, 8 years, maybe longer. I have no idea anymore, but that's all right. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Can you go just a little deeper into the trauma you experienced so our audience can hear just how profound it is and how that journey got you where you are today and into the work you do?
Yes, of course. So let's see. You want me to start with the original trauma, right? Not the one that happens every 5 minutes, right?
No, yes, please. Okay, we all have that definitely all the time. So yeah, if you can start with the original one, that would be great.
Okay. All right. So many moons ago, about more than 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with autoimmune, and autoimmune having to do with a spleen issue, low platelet counts. It's called thrombocytopenia. I'm surprised I can even pronounce it
Oh,
at this point. Uh,
yeah.
in short, it's ITP. And at that time, it was very unknown because it was right when the internet was actually starting to gather all the information of all the different conditions. And it was a new condition that many did not know much about.
Mhm.
And so to find it online was quite an interesting task. Um, but eventually it led me down the road of going to doctors and them wanting to take out my spleen and wanting to put me on drugs, which they did. So we did stop at that moment for like a minute, and I did take some medication, prednisone, and things like that. Initially, it was a little, I have to be honest, it was a little fun
A
because
little fun. That your version of fun.
it was a little fun
Okay.
because it boosted my energy because
Oh,
I didn't have a lot of energy, so it boosted my energy.
oh, okay.
So I was like, oh my God, I was flying. So I would, bake and cook and, clean and do like so many things that I normally, I wasn't like lethargic, but it
Right.
just
All in 15 minutes, right?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So I was able to accomplish a lot of things very quickly. And but so ultimately, what I discovered though was those medications took me down a rabbit hole of I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on this show.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, so it took me down the rabbit hole of shit
Okay.
because I gained weight. I started to show hair all
Mm.
around my arms and my back of my head, and I had what we call the spare tire, and I was blown up. My face was blown up, and at the time I was working at a beauty counter, so I was selling Lancome cosmetics.
Okay.
And so the people that knew me at the time were like, "What's going on with you?" Because at that time I was very private. I didn't talk about a lot of things, and they didn't know what was happening. They just thought maybe I was pregnant, or they just didn't know what was going on. So eventually I told some of them whatever, and they were like, "Wow, so those drugs were not, they weren't fun." Eventually I moved into the realm of holistic health. Why? Because something started to tell me intuitively, this doesn't make sense.
Hmm.
Something's just not clicking here. This just doesn't make sense. Because every time I would go to the doctor, they would just, how you doing? They just keep wanting to give me more of these drugs and pump up the milligrams and whatever,
Dosage, yeah, yeah.
the dosage. And I was like, yeah, no, something just doesn't make sense here. So I started doing my own
And for you, by the
research.
way, to sticking with your own intuition and
Yeah.
taking control. I just have to acknowledge that because it's hard for many people to do that. But continue, please.
Yeah, that's part of the issue, and that's part of my work, and we'll talk about it later. But um, so really, something just kept telling me, no, this isn't right. So finally, I started doing my own research, and it was a very quick decision. It didn't take me too long because as I started visiting these different doctors, one doctor was like, "Oh, okay, well, the only option we have here is to take out your spleen. You don't really need it anyway. It doesn't really do
Uh-huh.
anything."
Yeah.
And I was like,
So
"What?"
why is it there?
Exactly. I was like, "I'm sorry. I don't think God put it there for no reason, you know?"
Yeah, yeah.
So it was weird. It was a weird time.
Uh-huh. I can
And
imagine.
then another doctor I fired
Okay.
because as I started to discover the holistic way and I started to take herbs and supplements and started to eat better, and it was during the time when all the white stuff we were removing from our kitchens, so white flour, white sugar,
Mhm.
toxic
Yeah.
materials like cleaners and all kinds of things. This was right when all of this started to blow up. And so my mom was like, "Oh my God," because I was living with my parents, and she was like, "What are you doing in my kitchen?" Like I was just like, just going at it, you know what I mean? This gotta go, this gotta go, I was just like cleaning house for her. And so finally one day I went to the doctor, and I had already started taking these herbs, and I was going to the gym, and I was like really on a mission, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so I went to the doctor, and my platelets improved. They went up. Now, normally, just to give some context, the average human probably has from 150,000 to 400, 500,000 platelets.
Hmm.
That's a normal person. Person with what I had down 9,000. So that
Oh,
was like my worst count, 9,000.
wow.
That's when they were like, "Lady, you're gonna die. Like, we need
Yeah.
to get on this immediately." And that's what triggered the whole thing, because I was tested by mistake, by accident.
Mm.
I was tested with a company I was working for, and they were doing random testing of the new employees. And so they found this low CDC, CBC test, and that's when they freaked out and sent me for testing or further testing. So my platelets started to grow. And the doctor was like, I was like, "See, it's working." And he's like, "No, no, no. You telling me that you're taking these vitamins or whatever you're doing and that it's making you feel better. It's like you eating this notepad and telling me that it's getting better." I was like, "Okay, we're done here." I literally fired him that day. I said, "We're done. We're not ever coming back here again." And I was just like, and I think I even said to him, because it was such a long time ago, but I had a mouth on my on me back then. I still have a mouth, but it's a little bit changed since then. But I think I did say to him, listen, I think we have a conflict of interest because I'm looking to get better and you're trying to keep me sick. So I'm out, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Doctors don't like
So
hearing that.
no, and I was
Especially
in my
back then. Especially back
yeah.
then. It was a lot different back then for sure. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I was in my 20s, so I was a little bit of a rebel. So, but thank God I
yeah, right.
was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went on that route, I went on that road, that journey of holistic health, and got involved in a lot of different modalities, eating well and, um, taking the right vitamins and also emotions were a big part of that. Really getting clear of why am I where are these emotional reactions and how to manage the emotions and also I started studying Kabbalah at the time. I started studying spirituality. And so all of it was connected to this transformation that ultimately led to here, where I am now. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, I would say that's my story and I'm not sticking to it. I've gotten to that point, but I had a couple of questions to ask you because I know that you do. We talked before, and you were mentioning that you do work in emotions, right? And what I have learned recently, pretty recently, is autoimmune disease first generally shows up more with women, and secondly, it shows up because of trauma. So it's the body's reaction and then the mind body response to emotions and trauma. So I know you work with emotions. Can you go a little bit deeper into that work? And then why is that work you do so important?
So if we take it from an emotional perspective, which for me, what's happened over my years is that I've discovered that the emotions and the physical are very much connected.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, for me, it's not just the emotions, it's also the physiology,
Mm-hmm.
which incorporates the nutrition, the supplementation, the exercising, the meditation, all of these different things. So, the work that I do now, it's, really going from crazy to clarity, is taking all of this, all of this stuff,
Yeah.
the stress of life, the burnout, the overwhelm, the feeling like disengaged, lacking purpose, all that stuff, and really bringing some understanding of what's the root cause of all of this.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people don't really understand that the root cause is not necessarily just emotions. It's also we don't feel well. We don't feel well.
Mm-hmm.
And why are we not feeling well? We're not feeling well because we're not addressing the core reason for the not feeling well, which is underlining medical conditions. So, like my autoimmune was not just an emotional response, it was an actual physical response. My body was toxic. It was not getting the nutrients that it needed, and it was attacking itself
Mm-hmm.
because the virus was attacking itself. That's a physical, but then on an emotional, you have the aspect of like, maybe I was not that serious about my physical at the time because I was having a dysfunctional marriage. I was unhappy. I didn't understand the purpose of life. I was lost. So there's just like all these, components going on. And how do you make sense of all of this? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I always have this debate with my partner. Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the emotions or is it the physical? And the truth is that, the will that we have to get better, the will that we have to recover from these traumas and from these illnesses and from the stress, that is the will, that is emotion, that comes first. You have to have that. But the physiology, that is the part of us that will drive us to have the energy to go do what we have to do.
Mhm.
So both of them have to work together. And the trauma, the trauma, there are so many books nowadays. Like one of the books I remember is an old book, The Emotion Code, which talks about emotions being trapped in the body like little nodules, right? Like every time we have a trauma or every time we have a situation, it gets stuck in the body and it creates like a little nodule. And if enough of those nodules, you got blockages going on and the energy can't flow.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why, eating healthier, acupuncture, meditation, all these holistic modalities are really excellent for those kinds of things.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I was going to bring up there's another book that really because I came in from the trauma aspect of it. So The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. He talks about how trauma and emotions and thoughts and all that stuff get caught up in your nervous system. So when your nervous system is not healthy, you're going to, and you keep with the thoughts, you're ruminating thoughts and bringing up the same emotions and not healing those emotions and all that stuff. It all gets caught up in here. And what you're saying is absolutely imperative for people to understand is that if we don't get into the body, because the body, like a lot of people are completely disembodied. And because a lot of us who have been traumatized are afraid to listen to our bodies because our bodies are going to give us these weird little pokes and things and all these different things hinting at us to heal that trauma. But if we don't do that like you did, then we don't feel like I got to the point in my life where I couldn't even like when I touched myself, I couldn't even feel that. That's how traumatized it my body was, and probably my mind as well, but um being aware of all this stuff and being allowed to be aware of all this, like we aren't as explained by the doctor and the responses by that doctor. It's like, oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, but I'm in my body, so if you've got stuff going on in your body, pay attention and keep paying attention. And even if you don't understand how to do that, maybe look up the word embodiment and start studying it, because it will help you get to the point where Alla was at, where she was like, oh no, I know this feels like crap, so I'm going to do something about it. And regardless of what your doctor says, if what your doctor says doesn't resonate with you, and I'm sure that all will agree with me, if that doesn't resonate with you and your soul and your body, go get another opinion, because one person is not, especially from the older generational doctors from 20 years ago, they're not going to give you, there's new stuff that's come out now, so just kind of pay attention to that. So it leads into how life works, right? So in your case, how do you use what you do to help you in your daily life and even current challenges with you've told me you're going through perimenopause, and of course we've got relationships and your career. How do you use all the stuff that you do to help you in that, the daily things that come up? Not to mention the chaos in the world, but that's another thing. That's another
yeah,
conversation.
yeah. So yeah, I don't want to plug my book, just
Love
yet,
your
but
book. That's why we're here. Well,
okay, okay. I didn't want to, be weird, but
no, but
no,
it's
the
okay.
reason I talk about the book, it's called Level of Crazy,
I
like an
love that
a-hole.
name, by
Everybody
the way.
has one.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that name. That's fantastic.
Um, and the reason it's called Level of Crazy, like an a-hole, everybody has one, is because it's true. We all have a level of crazy. And so what I did is that I took all of the different modalities, all the tools, all the things that I did throughout my 2 decades here of going down this journey, and I put them all in this book. And basically, it's a very holistic approach. It's the approach is under the name of the concept, and the concept is called recognize and manage your level of crazy
Mm-hmm.
with EQ. And, the whole thing is emotional intelligence, right? EI, EQ, people may know what it is, and some people may not know what EQ is. EQ is emotional quotient. So if I was to just give a little bit explanation, is that
Please.
emotional intelligence is the faculty, is the ability to basically recognize your emotions
Mm-hmm.
and how they affect others.
Okay.
And so my emotions and how they could affect another human being that I'm interacting with, but it's also the ability to understand others. It's also how to read other people that you're interacting with at that moment. And so emotional quotient is the actual score of your emotional intelligence. So if you were to think of IQ, everybody knows what IQ is. It's how smart we are. So EQ is how emotionally smart we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I call it recognize and manage your level of crazy. And so, when we're able to do that, and I also talk about the two kinds of crazy, because some people may say, well, I'm not crazy, like, how dare you call me crazy? Well, hold on a second. There's two kinds of crazy. There's the reactive crazy, and that's the one where we're just being reactive and we're upset and we're feeling lonely, depressed, disconnected. And then there's the proactive crazy, where we feel connected and inspired and empowered and creative, and it's all the good stuff. And so these two levels is what I discovered. These are the two kinds of crazy I discovered in myself. And I was able to say, wait a second. And over the years, I was able to use the different modalities that I put in this book to be able to move from that reactive to the proactive.
Uh-huh.
Some of the stuff that, I find is that you have to want to change. You have to want to do this work.
That's a key. Just saying, because if you don't want to do it, then you ain't gonna keep up with it. Just that's just how it works. So
Yeah, there's a lot of people trapped in the victimization of being sick or having, let's just say, something. Oh, I have this thing.
mhm.
My doctor says I have this thing, I have this diagnosis, I have this whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so, we sit in that for years and years and years because that's how we get attention, or that's how we don't have to take responsibility for our life, or we just want, to just cry me a river. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a whole gamut of things. Now, if you're doing everything you can and you still find yourself struggling, well, that's just the human condition. That's just the human journey.
Mhm.
And that's talk to God about that.
Yeah,
Because
there's that. Yeah. Well, there's one thing I wanted to bring up based off. Thank you for bringing that up. Because I've had this, like you said, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And because I had learned a while ago that it doesn't have to be your story. So you don't have to stick to it. And by saying that's my story and I'm not sticking to it, words that you say are powerful. So one of the things that I hear a lot of people, oh, I've got a cold and it's, and it gets worse, and I keep talking about it and it gets worse and it becomes the flu or it becomes whatever. I remember when I was in my first few jobs, and I really 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 needed some time off, right? I just needed a day off. I needed some emotional intelligence. I got to get my emotions back in, and so I could go back and work, right? And I'd call in, and I remember when I was on the phone calling in, telling them that I was taking the day off because I didn't feel well, I would literally stop feeling well. Like, I was fine when I picked the phone up, but then when I started talking about it, I could feel a cold coming on. And I'm like, what is, but I didn't really look into it back then, but thinking back on that. So when you talk about it, when you own it, when you own these things, you're creating, we are all creators, and you're creating dis-ease or illness or whatever in your body. And that's not what we're supposed to be creating. We get to create things, like a healthy lifestyle or joy or, all these different things that we have the capacity to have in our lives. We are discreating those things because we are so focused on that victim status. And trust me, I know what that is. I've been there, and I was there for a long time. And when I started to recognize what my words were doing, then I started to work really hard, and I still do that. And it's not the easiest thing, but to change my words, like instead of saying like, I have to do something, use I get to do it. Because when you get to do something, then that means that gives it a higher energy or vibration into the thing, and it raises the vibration in your body. So having a higher vibration in your body through meditation and through all these things that Allah talks about, and it's like being in that embodiment within your body and recognizing these things and paying attention to these things. People get to the point where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's when they wait to do something about it, right? And then they go to the doctor, and the doctor says whatever thing the doctor says, and it's like it's this never-ending storm, constant, constant, constant. But when you shift your thoughts and you don't own it, and you shift how you talk, it changes that within your body, and it helps you to live differently and a more, joyous life. It's so different. And then you did say something, I wanted to bring this up because a lot of times people, because I did it, that's why I'm bringing it up. I used to intentionally, because I didn't get paid attention too much when I mean, I did, but my mother wound is lack of nurturing. So I grew up with that. So my version of trying to get attention was to find different ways to feel sick, right? So people would pay attention to me. So I would create these illnesses, whatever they were, and that way people would pay attention to me. And that is part of the trauma, part of the subconscious way of going, oh, well, if you're not going to pay attention to me because I deserve it, which we don't really know that, then we're going to say, here's how I'm going to do it. You either get sick or you do something wrong, so somebody will pay attention to you, but it's the wrong kind of attention, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of people out there who are still doing that sort of thing where if they stay sick, then people are going to feel sorry for them, and then they're going to get the attention that they need. And that's not healthy. And the more you do it, the sicker you are going to get, and the more stuck you're going to get within that. So I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that you jarred my memory on my own experiences. And it's just interesting how the body works. That's the bottom line, is how it responds to our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, our emotional intelligence, all of it. It responds to everything. Our words, it responds to everything. So I want to know, though, with everything that you've talked about, what can you say has been the most, what has made you the most proud along your journey? What created that?
I want to finish one thought in regards to, like, for example, like premenopause, if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know, like, within the conscious community, a lot of the conversations are words, and I completely agree, 100%. Self-talk, there's a book, actually. I just finished using it in a documentary that I created. It's called What Do We Say When We Speak to Ourselves? And it's an old book. And it's all about self-talk, the 4 levels of self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so very powerful. And I will also say that this is where the physiology and the psychology really have to work together, because we can self-talk ourselves to death, but if our physiology is under attack, there's just so much we can do. So that's why it's vital. Like, for example, going through this process now of premenopause, I make jokes all the time that, nobody told me it was over at 50, because it really does feel that way. It feels like, wow, my body is a completely different environment.
Mhm.
I never expected these kinds of changes. And it can be very scary and lonely and depressing and all the stuff, because it's like, oh my God, what is this? Especially if you're in a relationship and there's the sexuality aspect of it. And, it affects your partner. And there's just like so many things a part of this change. And if you're a guy listening to it, you're still affected, because even though there's not a lot of talk about men having menopause, they actually do go through menopause.
Mhm.
Um, and they also have the experience now living with us, and us going through our process, and
Yeah,
how that affects them, and they have their own trauma coming out of it, right? So they're
yeah,
traumatized for God knows how long.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a very fine line. It's a very fine line of self-talk and also the physiology. So that's what my work really is. It's really about this balance
Mhm.
of both, and making sure that we don't forget the physiology, and that we're also very much about we're all about the emotions, but we're also about the physiology. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, so, sorry, where was the question that you had asked me?
Hang on a second, because now I want to say something about the physiology part.
Mhm,
Now I forgot
mhm.
that. Hold on. I said,
Oh,
what is the thing that made you most proud about your journey?
mm. I would say, you know, every stage has its own benchmark. And all I can remember as of right now is this book. This book is, I would say, first of all, I would say that manifesting my partner, Tom, and finally stepping into my most important destiny journey, which was to find my partner and to get going with this really important work that I'm doing now with him here in the clinic, and also myself with my own journey with the book, and starting to move this forward, and doing my EQ coachings here with the patients. So that, I think, is the most um, important, and probably my most proud um, achievements in the
Mm,
past couple of years.
yeah, yeah. That sounds awesome. Yeah, and especially a book. I mean, come on. I've been working on my achievement, mine for 27 years now, so it's coming. But, so congratulations on that book because it sounds like it's really cool. So before we wrap up, I'd love to finish with the questions I ask all of my guests. How do you see individual healing work contributing to larger societal transformation?
Um, well, for me, it's all about level of crazy. For me, it's when each one of us can recognize and manage our own level of crazy, then we actually make it easier for the rest of the world.
Mhm.
I created a quote. It goes when you know and understand yourself, the world will know and understand you too. And remember, what's the best that can happen? And that quote basically sums up for me that, only until I was able to really get clear of myself and understand why I get reactive, why I act, maybe jealous, or maybe I'm acting out, or I'm having a drama moment, or I'm having an upset, and I'm yelling at my partner, and all he did was say good morning. It's like,
Those things
you
happen.
know, right? Like, how
Those
dare you say
happen.
good morning to me?
Yeah. Don't do that.
It's like, oh my God. It's like, so when I'm able to really control and manage, recognize and manage those emotions and those physiology sensations that are going through my body, I can communicate effectively in the morning. I could say, like, I didn't sleep well at all. I'm not feeling well. I'm grumpy today. I'm crampy. I'm this, I'm that. Just to warn him that, okay, she's having a bad day, um, and then it gives him an opportunity to say, okay, can I get you something? Is there something I can do for you? Now I'm blessed because he's an acupuncturist, and he's an herbalist. But again, I say I'm blessed, but I'm also, it was designed that way. I manifested that for myself. You know what I mean? So we can all manifest what we want to manifest if it's meant for us. Now that's a big thing if it's meant for us, right? Because sometimes we want, a Ferrari and it's not meant for us.
Right. Apparently,
um,
yeah.
right? But anyway, so it gives him an opportunity to also show up from a divine place.
Hmm.
Um, and then also, if we're at the office, if we're a leader, if we're running a team, and we're having a moment, we can communicate to our team, more efficiently, more effectively, more with compassion. Look, guys, I'm not feeling well today. I'm sorry. I'm having a really bad morning. Just bear with me. And then that way people have an opportunity to do the right thing. We really got to trust that people are going to do the right thing if you give them an option to do the right thing. But our job is to try to give people an opportunity to be a nice person.
Right, right. Yeah.
So I think that for me is the answer, is when you really work on yourself and you really work on your own crazy. When you're in tune with your own crazy, then you can be in tune and more compassionate to other people's crazy. And you don't have to take them so seriously. You don't have to get offended so seriously, I mean, so quickly, because you realize that everyone has a level of crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's no point in getting so riled up about somebody's stuff, because everyone is a narcissist and everyone is a control freak.
And
That's
everyone is
just,
doing the best they can
yes, everybody's doing the best they can with being a narcissist
with
and a
being an
control
artist.
freak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So now some people are worse than others, of course, right? There's degrees of this narcissism and controlling. We all have it. We all have it. So, rather than trying to change someone else, it's easier to just stay over here, try
Mhm.
to manage all this, and then if it's still not working, then just get the hell out of there and stay away from that person. That's
Well, here's the thing, yeah, and what I've learned over the years is that we all have the potential to do or to be, even if it's just for a split second or a split thought. The things that we judge in other people, we all have that potential. We all have that potential. It's just what we do with it or don't do with it. So it's all in us. We're human. Just give
Mhm.
yourself a break. Be gentle with yourself. I mean, okay, if you want to be a narcissist today and you're going to be a narcissist and you're like, I'm going to stay in bed all day. All right, go do that. I say, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, you can be as narcissistic as you want. But the challenge is, you're correct. There are narcissists out there who actually do hurt other people. So that's another conversation. But I wanted to know if you can give those in our audience who are just starting out in their journey a little bit of, suggestion or whatever it is, to say for them, because a lot of people don't know when they finally make the decision to do that. They're like, at this point, they don't know what they're going to do. So, what would you suggest to those people just starting out on their healing journey?
So I would say the first thing is really get clear about, what is it that you really want to accomplish? Like what is the goal here? What is the area that you really want to heal? Because the number one task with anything in life is, what is the goal? What is the objective? Where are we headed with all this, right? You need a vision. You need a vision. You need to really get clear about what is it that I'm trying to heal? What is it that I'm hurting? Why am I trying to, um, what am I really trying to uncover here? We call it reveal to heal, right? Um, and so if I was to give you, like a three-step process, that's actually in my book. It's called the ASK protocol. And it's one of my frameworks. It's ASK, right? So A, awareness.
Are we going there? Okay.
Yes,
A.
ASK, which is A, awareness.
Uh-huh.
S, strategy.
Uh-huh.
S, serenity. So A, awareness, S, strategy, S, serenity. And so the ASK protocol. And so,
That's
the ASK
awesome.
protocol is all of that. It's basically, okay, becoming aware,
Yeah.
becoming really aware of what's going
Yeah.
on. Why am I upset? Like what's happening here? And I break it down in the book and I talk all about it. And for a limited time, it's still on my website. So if you're listening to this now, you could still see it on the website. It will be removed very soon. Um, and then the next one is strategy. What is the strategy? What am I going to do to move this forward? How am I going to change this? And I say, do you want short-term indulgence or long-term fulfillment?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so then we talk about that. And then the last piece is serenity, is really giving blessing, really giving gratitude for the lesson, for the divine lesson that has been given to me now, for me, not to me, but for me,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
that I can now change this and move forward
Yeah.
and transform this.
Yeah.
And so
And
I would
stop
say,
being an ass.
say again.
And stop being an ass.
And that's exactly what it says. If you want to stop being an ass, use the ass protocol. Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly.
Okay. How would you define awakening?
Um, I would say awakening is when you start to wake up to the fact that you have a level of crazy. Like when I realized, oh my God, like I am one reactive bitch, and I had to accept that about myself. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's when I really started to go deeper into the work of EQ. And I really started to, study and do all these workshops. And, I've gone to every workshop known to man and studied from all the greats, Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer,
Yeah.
Deepak, Eckhart Tolle, everybody. I was reading every book, going to every workshop, and that's where the EIEQ Institute got created because I was just like, oh my God, like I can't believe that, yeah, I love all this work, but I'm not really doing it. I'm not really doing it. I'm studying and I know Kabbalah and I get all this spiritual stuff and I've been doing it for decades, but I'm not really changing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that was right around my second divorce. And, here I'm headed into a second divorce. I have, I'm still struggling a little bit with this because at the time I was already improving with my health, but still not 100% yet, not like now. Um, but, the awakening was acknowledging my own crap
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just saying, okay, yeah, okay, I'm reactive. I'm really reactive. I'm really short-tempered. I have a short fuse. And where is that coming from? And a lot of that was coming from from not feeling well, and not my body being toxic,
Mhm.
and me not understanding that. And a lot of it was also just having a short fuse and not realizing that I have a short fuse.
Right.
So it's all, and from wounds, right? From wounds of getting hurt, and and feeling not good enough, right? Everybody has this, the not good enough gene,
Yep.
right?
Not
We
good enough.
we
Yep.
yeah, we all came in with it. So it's not like anybody's immune to the not good enough gene. Uh so constantly that I'm not good enough, how dare you speak to me that way? How dare you disrespect me? How dare you overlook me when you're talking to the team and I feel unseen? It's like the same old crap. It's like,
Yeah. You
it's
just
like,
got to the point where you were like, okay, that's enough, right?
that's enough.
Yeah,
That's
that's enough.
enough. Like,
Yep.
what is this?
So it led you, I'm curious now because you got into that whole level of crazy and the whole not good enough and the whole what is this? And so that tends, this is from my discoveries of myself. So the next question I have is what do you believe soul divinity is then? Because you know what the awakening is from all that. Now, what's soul divinity?
I believe that's where the good crazy comes in. That's the proactive crazy. That's all the good stuff.
That's the fun crazy.
Yes,
That's the fun
exactly.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the crazy creative, crazy love, crazy beautiful, crazy passionate, crazy artistic, all that good stuff, where we are just like we were watching this show yesterday about a guy who became obsessed with making pasta. And he just put his heart and soul into making pasta. He was lost his whole life, and eventually he finds himself making pasta and finding his mentor in Italy, because Tom is Italian, so he's chasing his roots now, and you know doing all this stuff with Italy. And so he was blown away by this guy
Yeah.
who got obsessed. So that's crazy
Yeah.
maker.
Yeah. 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 And it's interesting. My level of the good crazy is, and this is the first time I've really said this because it's, I guess, time for it to come up. At this point, I'm sure I still have a little bit in there, but not so much anymore. My crazy is that I don't care what people think of me. I will say the words, call me crazy, and I will keep going, and it doesn't matter. And if somebody doesn't, if I don't suit somebody anymore, that's my level of good crazy. It's like, okay, so I'm a little crazy for you, but that doesn't mean I can't be myself. And that's the programming that we went through, that were made to believe we weren't good enough. And I couldn't even accept that about myself. So I wanted to share that that's kind of where I'm at this point. I'm still working on it a little bit because I do have some moments where I get like, yeah. But for the most part, it's like, okay, you do you, I'll do me, you be your crazy, I'll be my crazy, and we'll all be happy. That seems to be the thing. Anyway, all right. So how can people get in touch with you?
Look up my website, which is EIEQ institute.com.
Right.
So EIEQ institute.com. I think that's probably the best way to
Right.
do it. I'm also on Facebook. They can look me up on Facebook under the EIEQ Institute.
So, and just to let everybody know, these, as usual, these links will be in the description, so it'll be easier to find it. Or you can look at her thing over there in the corner, like I have,
Exactly.
where it says that her website. So, thank you so much, Esther. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we wrap up?
Um, First of all, thank you so much. I'm glad I got in touch with you. I saw what you were up to, and I thought it
Yes,
was great.
thank you.
It's always good to reconnect with someone and to see that they're progressing,
Yeah,
and doing what they're doing, that they want to really share this important wisdom with the world. So anytime we're doing this kind of work, I really feel it's important. So good for you.
Thank you.
I think that I think the most important thing is to embrace the crazy, right? Embrace your crazy, the good, the bad, exactly, the good, the bad.
There it is. Okay.
Exactly. Just embrace it.
A little back
Embrace
there,
it.
but okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
Embrace your
Know that it's there because there's a divine reason it's there, but there is transformation that needs to happen. It shouldn't, there should not be well, this is how I am and this is how I am and that's it. No, well, yes, of course. But if it's more on the bad, not if it's stuck on the reactive side a little bit more than it should, we got to try to move it over to the proactive, because there's souls out there waiting for you.
Yeah, yes. And I have to say something with that because I remember reading that something similar to what you just said over and over and over again. There are souls out there waiting for you. There are people out there waiting for you to talk about, whatever. And I'm like, at one point I'm like, no, they don't, because I'm an imposter. I don't, whatever. And then at one point I was like, okay. And then I started going and doing this because I recognized that was happening. And the ones that are meant to find you are going to be finding you anyway. So it doesn't, the people who you're not meant to have in your life will not be there. So there are people out there looking for you. Even it doesn't matter what you do. You can do a podcast. You can work with intelligence or emotional intelligence and quotients. So you can work with anything. You can cook a beautiful meal, and that's still being there for somebody else. You're feeding the world when you do that. So it doesn't make a difference what all that is. It's just step into what you love and you will figure that out. It'll start coming to you. That I can vouch for. So Esther, no, that's what I would call you. Sorry. Okay. So
all good. It's all good. It doesn't matter.
That's my friend Esther, but you call her Alla. Okay, Alla. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with such honesty and courage. And your story is such a powerful reminder that even when life seems to strip away our health, our relationships, our hope, there's still a deeper truth waiting to be discovered. And for those of you in the audience, if Alla's experience spoke to your heart, please share this episode with someone who may need it and subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And connect with our community where we continue exploring these paths of awakening and transformation. In fact, I do have a Facebook group out now. It's called Awakening to Soul Divinity Community. So if you find that on Facebook, you're welcome to join. And then the last thing I want to say is remember, your struggles do not define you. They can become the very doorway to your soul's awakening. So thank you, Alla, for being here with us on Awakening Soul Divinity. Thank you for being here. Click on one of the videos below to keep going on your healing journey. And don't forget to subscribe.